Hi everyone. Welcome to week one. I know you're just getting oriented to the class and everything that's going on, but I just really want to emphasize that I hope you watched the orientation video. Try to keep these very brief, but I like, number one, for you to be able to see me. And I can tell you things. Some of you will read the documents, some of you may not read them. I want to make sure, I really would prefer that you ensure that you look at these videos, if nothing else. I just want to be sure that you're on track and you understand, what it is we want you to do throughout the course. And so it's really, this course is so time sensitive. You only have about 12 weeks before you have to be ready to present a really complete project proposal for approval. And so you have to really pay attention to the deadlines, the due dates. I know you're all busy. I know you have a lot of other things going on, but I really want you to pay attention to when things are due and really try to stay on top of things for this, because if this gets away from you a little bit, it's really hard to catch up. So I really wanted to emphasize that point. What I just want to try to briefly tell you about here in this first week, it's just sort of getting started, and the first discussion post is really informal. It doesn't have to be very formal at all. I just want to know where you are in the process of having an idea of what kind of a project you're going to conduct. Some students come into this course and they're firmly set. They know what they want to do. They wrote a state of the science paper in NRDNP 858 and they are ready to go. And they know the site and they know, a lot about how they're going to do things. Some students don't have a clue, and that's okay. Wherever you are is okay. There's no right or wrong to that part. I just need to know as quickly as possible where you are in the process. Do you have an idea of what kind of project you're going to do? What's the clinical issue that you want to address? Really important question. Do you have a site? Do you know where you're going to try to do this project? And really most important is, if you know what the issue is and you have a site, is this a problem in the site that you're going to hopefully conduct your project in? It's vital that you know that you realize and are able to find some data, some anecdotal data, something that says this is a problem in this site. So let me give you a quick example. In the past, we've had students that say maybe want to work on falls prevention. Every hospital, every nursing unit works on falls prevention and has been for years, but sometimes a student thinks that perhaps we're not doing things using best available evidence, and so for their project they want to do that. But if the data shows that they've had one fall in the past 3 quarters, or even the past year, or 2 falls, or even 10 falls out of the volume of patients, it's not a problem. You have to be able to, you want to be able to show some improvement, and if you don't have a problem, then it's going to be really difficult for you to show an improvement. Our ultimate goal for you is to obviously learn how to conduct an evidence-based practice quality improvement project. The first step is in this course where you develop your proposal, and then you go into residency and you actually do the project. But by the end, before you graduate, we want you to be able to have hopefully a publishable manuscript. And that manuscript and a description of your project is not going to be very publishable if you really didn't solve a problem. If there wasn't a problem to begin with and whatever you implemented really didn't make a difference. Now, that said, let me just make it clear that your projects do not have to be 100% successful. Sometimes we learn and you can publish something that says, we tried this out. This was the best evidence available. We tried and implemented this process and it didn't necessarily work. That's okay too, but my point is, if you didn't have a problem to begin with, then it's really difficult to demonstrate that you did anything substantive. So I hope that makes sense. I don't want to bore you too much with that right now. I want to jump into just a couple of other quick topics in this first week. So basically, I just want you to tell me in your discussion post, what's the problem you think you want to deal with? What's the clinical issue? Do you have an idea what site you're going to do this in? And if so, do you know that it's a problem there? Also then, and you'll see in the Module 1 document if you look at it, that you want to be able to begin to think about some frameworks. Frameworks for DNP projects are a little different than theoretical frameworks that PhD students have to use in their dissertations. You don't have to have a real underlying theory. Hopefully you remember some of what you had in a course with probably Dr. Barbara Edlund called Scientific Underpinnings, and hopefully in that course you learned about some models which include the focused PDSA, the PDSA model, the ACE-STAR model, the Johns Hopkins model for evidence-based practice, the Iowa model, the Stettler model. But there's also a couple that you may not have learned about. One in particular I want to expose you to and really want to talk about briefly, and that is something called Six Sigma methodology. Now this is really a huge topic that I won't go into in great detail for you because it would take a long time, but Six Sigma is a methodology that's been used in business and industry around the world for a number of years. And I can boil it down to you in a real sort of simple fashion that the whole idea of Six Sigma is to reduce variation in practice, no matter what that practice is, whether it's nursing care, nursing practice, whether it's processes in an organization. The idea is to reduce variation. So in other words, no matter who's doing a job, no matter who's performing a task, people are, things are typically going virtually the same way. Task is being performed the same way. Let's take, for instance, taking a blood pressure. Hopefully we all learned how to take a blood pressure early on in our nursing careers. But does everyone do it the same way? Is there some variation? Yes, there is. There's no question about that. Interesting, just to talk about blood pressure for a minute, that's another example of a project we had that didn't go so well because the student wanted to improve the process for how they took blood pressures and also give patients a little better information about how to take blood pressures at home. Sounded good, sounded like a good project, good quality improvement project where the practice would implement this on a regular basis. And so you try it out in the project. The problem was the student, when they got the aggregate data, because we don't want you to use individual patient data. You have to use aggregate data, meaning data that's de-identified, data that is from a group of people or a population, not from individual people, individual patients. So when they got a mean blood pressure, say for a group of patients in a primary care practice, so we want to improve, and so even saying all patients with a diagnosis of hypertension, and we're going to get a mean blood pressure out of the data. We can extract that typically from the data, and then we're going to try this improvement project and then see if we improve the mean. Well, unfortunately, before they ever implemented an improvement process, the mean blood pressure was, say, 128/66. Pretty hard to improve upon that kind of a mean. We're not trying to get down to 100/60. I mean, you see what I mean? The problem is if the mean blood pressure for these patients with hypertension had been 160/94, we'd say, great, now we really need to try to implement something to bring that mean down, but that wasn't the case. So in any event, this Six Sigma methodology is something where it's really about trying to reduce variation, and it starts with, and you'll see in the document, there's an acronym called DMAIC. D-M-A-I-C stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. So we're going to be going through that during this course. It's really a wonderful way to help you sort of categorize or think in your mind what's the method I'm going to use for doing this. And the method typically should start with finding a process to improve, that's in PDSA, but also in DMAIC, defining the problem. And what's the problem and how bad is the problem? And we want to have some kind of measure of that. So you measure. You can't collect a lot of data before you get your project approved, but you can figure out some ways to determine or be able to demonstrate that there is a problem regarding this issue. So just really want to make those points very clear for you. Hopefully you will read some of the other information in the documents. I try to keep everything brief and to the point so that you really get it. You really understand what it is that we want you to accomplish, especially in these first few weeks. But the good news is for this course is for fall of 2016. There are 8 students in this course, and so I am your faculty member, and I have plenty of time to help each one of you individually. So I hope that we will be in touch. Obviously via email. Obviously I'll be looking in Moodle at your post, but I also want to make sure that we have a phone call or perhaps a Skype session early on to just talk to each other, get to know each other a little bit, and also really ensure your path, what the ideas are that you have for moving forward. So that's kind of all I want to say in this first week and brief video, and let you know that your first post can be very fairly informal. Now, when I say informal, we still prefer that you use APA format. If you reference anything, we prefer that you cite references. But really, the questions are pretty simple. Do you know what clinical issue you're going to address? Do you know where you're going to conduct your project? And do you know if there's data to sort of demonstrate that the severity of the problem, that there really is a problem there? There's no right or wrong to this. You may not know the answers to any of these questions, and that's okay. You can tell me and tell the other students. You can say in the post, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. See, that will alert me to say, okay, we need to talk immediately, and I really want to help you figure out either what you're going to do, where you're going to do it, or is this really a problem, or how do I find out if it's a problem or not? So that's the whole purpose. First week is just getting to know each other, but also giving me a quick idea of where you're at in this process, and that will help me better guide you, because as I said, some students will know what they want to do and they'll be off and running and doing well, and others will possibly need a little more help, and that's what I'm here for. So thanks for listening to this brief video, and let's stay in touch. I look forward to talking to you soon.